the school year. Try to get level 1 to at least write 100 words in 5 minutes. Ok, y los padres salen de la casa a las 7 de la mañana. Clase, ¿a qué hora salen de la casa los padres? A las 7, muy bien. Clase, por favor, ¿dónde trabaja la madre? ¿Trabaja en un restaurante o un hospital? Hospital, muy bien. You know, it's like, I don't have this written down with script, it's like kind of like the feel, you know, I don't know, it's like I'm on autopilot, and it's like whatever I feel like, you know, going back to and switching it up to, you know, an interrogative or a yes or no, okay. Los domingos, la familia va a la iglesia. And then, clase, and I think I said the night time too, a las 9 de la mañana. Clase, por favor, ¿a dónde va la familia? ¿Va a la iglesia o va al parque? A la iglesia, muy bien. ¿A qué hora?
A las 9.
A las 9. También a Natalia le gustan las películas, especialmente las películas de horror. También a ella le gustan los libros de misterio. Clase, por favor, ¿qué tipo de películas le gustan, Natalia? De horror. Clase, ¿le gustan los libros de horror? No, because they already know, they just know when the yes and, you know, they don't, you know, they know when it's a yes or no question or either or interrogative at this point. It's like, just, right? Okay, so they, and then they say no, and then I'll just say, ¿qué tipo de libros le gusta? De misterio, because they have, you know, I'm sure your units have the movies and the genres, right? Okay, and then this is like what happened ever since the beginning of the year. I took every one of my chapters and I combined it into this. Let's just see how much language we know at this point, everybody, you know, to my class. School unit, right? Okay, so ella, okay, muy bien. Ella tiene, what did I say? What's my thing? I don't know. Su clase favorita es la clase de inglés. Siempre saca una A en la clase. Clase, por favor, ¿cómo se llama su clase favorita en inglés? ¿Qué nota saca Natalia in la clase de inglés? Una B o una, you know, if I want to make it either or, you know, I make a quick decision or I just stop talking and just let the interrogative question take it and they say saca una A. Algún día ella quiere ser profesora de inglés. And then some people are like, oh, why would she want to be there? They did that the other day. I'm like, algún día ella quiere ser profesora de inglés. But see, then I go back, you know, and I do circlings, however, how long you want to provide them the input. You would do it probably a lot longer if it was all new structures. And then, en el verano, la familia va a visitar a los abuelos, family unit. You know, it's all, you know what I'm saying? It's all this stuff, you know, all these units. La familia va a visitar a los abuelos en la ciudad de Phoenix, Arizona. A Natalia le gusta visitar a sus abuelos porque tiene una alberca, piscina.
Can you model in English?
I'm sorry?
Can you model in English for those who don't?
Oh, I'm sorry. So in the summer, the family's going to go on vacation and visit the grandparents, and she likes going to visit the grandparents in Phoenix because they have a swimming pool.
I'm sorry, well, for example, if you're stuck with the textbook and you're kind of building this around the cluster of vocabulary, right? So do you use just like maybe this is the one you would use for family, and do you use it for the whole chapter or unit, or do you do different ones? Does that make sense? Like, do you build one story and that's what you revisit during your time spent on that unit, or do you?
It's just a one-day thing.
Just a one-day thing, okay.
Well, and the next day, I'll have the student come up, and then they go ahead and then I just click.
Right, but you're using
and they tell it to the class by memory.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, you're using the same PowerPoint that you put together slides. It's
right.
not like you, okay.
I have like 4 or 5 stories I create for every chapter. It's very exhausting. But once I have them, So hopefully the department doesn't decide, hey, we want new textbooks, and then I'm back to scratch.
All right, since you're tied to a textbook, do you still give them traditional vocab lists or no?
I do.
Okay.
Because on the common assessments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can give you, or I should give you some copies. So, so after I told that for about 25 minutes, or 20 minutes, however, then I set the time. I'm like, okay, everybody, you have 7 minutes, and go ahead and, you know, write out the whole story. So here's somebody's, you know, hay una chica que se llama Natalia, tiene 15 años, tiene una hermana que se llama Mia. Oh, for those of you, okay, so there's a girl that's named Natalia, she's 15 years old, she has a sister named Mia. Mia's 7 years old, she lives in a house in Tecumseh, Michigan. I think I threw that out as whoever wanted to volunteer where in the camp pool. Their parents leave at the house at 7 in the morning, and Ignacio works as a cook. Mother's Lorena, works in a hospital. I'm not looking at grammar, right? I'm looking at, like, you know, their fluency here, right? And their, you know, how they can just do everything off the top of their heads. Every Sunday at 9 in the morning, the family goes to the church to practice religion. Okay, you know, it didn't have to be, you know, necessarily word for word. You know, Natalie likes horror movies and she likes horror novels. I must have said the novels were horror movie books as well. Favorite class is English, and she always has an A in class. Someday she wants to be a teacher in English. This summer, her family's going to Phoenix to visit. You know, for all of you, you know, Spanish teachers, I mean, that's quite decent stuff, right?
Is that Spanish 1?
Yes.
Wow.
I collected the time rights. We did this on last Friday, so not this past Friday, but the Friday before. And I've been holding on to them all week. And then they circle their number at the top, so she got 138 words. Now this is demonstrating their, you know, this is performance assessment, it's not proficiency assessment. We can talk about that. Scott Benedict is talking about the differences and stuff.
Now, is this all from memory? Do they have like a notebook or notes to look at?
No,
I
it's
mean,
just,
like the spelling and everything is.
yeah, it's just all, yeah. There's no, yeah, they're not looking at notes or anything. You know, I kept the word cocinero on the board or any other word that they don't have in their unit. And
So what do you do with these? I mean, do you give them feedback on, I mean, what do you personally do with them after you read them? Like, do you grade them?
wow, yeah, it's pretty good. You know, I'm kind of like in the beginning stages of figuring out the whole time rate thing. A lot of teachers are starting to do time rates, so I'm trying to make her, you know, like, what does this mean to us? And you know, the people on the website, on IFLT Facebook saying, you know, my goal is to have my students at the end of level 1, you know, to be able to write 100 words, you know, but not as a retell, but like as an open-ended write.
What's the age of this person?
14,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
13, 14.
How do they?
That's not
I mean,
typical.
They're all 8th graders, yeah.
Is this a top student?
My level 2s, I didn't do much with the level 2s much because I'm still trying to, because I'm getting them from 6 different Spanish teachers, so they've never had CI for the entire first year. But my 1s, you know, I got them fresh, and my 2s can't do this yet. I mean, they're kind of getting there, but, you know, but they haven't had any storytelling when they came to me. They're like, wow, who's this guy? You know.
So when you give them vocabulary lists, how many words are on a list? Do you give a quiz over it?
Whatever the typical list is in the textbook.
All right.
20, 30 words, you know, and then, you know, the 2 or 3 grammar points. Now, oh, and that's another one. You got 167, and then, and then I did it again. I just did this one the other day, but I'm not going to kind of go through all this, the circling and. Well, if you. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is actually highlighting our current chapter, so I'm, you know, it's like I'm dealing with going to go, va a trabajar, has to, tiene que, and puede. That's in this chapter 4 of this Realidades textbook, so I was highlighting those structures, just to kind of get, because I did this 3 days ago with them. So I'd say, okay, there's a girl named, whatever her name is, and this one actually goes somewhere, you know, I guess. She wanted to, she always likes to go see new movies at the movie theater, and she wants to see the movie Rampage. Her favorite actor is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and then I go back and I stop, right, and I go back to circling. But there's a problem. She doesn't want to go alone because no quiere, you know, wants, cans, goes, and has to. So I put all those structures and I created a story over it. And then she calls her. She doesn't call. I just said she speaks with. She speaks with her friend Jessica, and Jessica is on a basketball team for the school, because the word equipo, the team, is a vocab word, and the word partido is a vocab word in the same chapter. So, está en un equipo de básquetbol de la escuela, y ella no puede ir al cine con María, it's always minute, yeah, con María, porque tiene que jugar un partido a las 8 de la noche. She has to play a game at 8 o'clock at night. Then she speaks with her brother, and I didn't know that there was going to be an animation there until I pasted it in, I don't know. Talk with his brother, but he can't because he's sick. The word enfermo is one of the vocab words in the chapter, so that's so I threw that in there. No puede ir con su hermana al cine porque está enfermo, because he's sick. And then, habla con su novio Nicolás. These two people are a couple from a story back like in October, like, oh hey, that's Nicolás. Some guy from Google, I don't know. I just typed in like teen standing, and then I'll take him, all right? And same with her. I mean, I get all this from Google Images. I just go to images and, girl standing, and then there she came up, so I right-clicked and then pasted into PowerPoint.
Is that where you get like the background pictures too?
Yes, yeah, bedroom, and then paste, enlarge it, and then, but he can't, no puede ir con su hermana porque tiene que trabajar en Steak and Shake hasta las 10 de la noche, until 10 o'clock at night. And then, empieza a llorar, she starts to cry, and then, and then suddenly, de repente, that's another thing too. Entonces and después, and these transitional story words, I have those, I got words for those, for entonces. Finally, por fin, afterwards, después, because you need that stuff to get the story moving along, right? De repente, ella tiene una idea cuando mira su gato. She has an idea when suddenly she sees her cat, and then she has an idea, and it's 8 o'clock, son las 8 de la noche, and then ella va al cine con su gato, and then that's the end of it. A lot of it's just kind of hokey a little bit, but right. And then another way I can do an assessment is there's the paragraph, and instead of doing a time write, I just give it to them, and then they just answer these questions in just a one-word answer or whatever. But then I'll have them translate for meaning in English the whole paragraph. Because sometimes, ¿qué película quiere mirar Susana en el cine? They might not necessarily even know what that question is, because they can just look for, it must be that word, I'm going to put it in there. But if they translate the whole paragraph, then assuming they're not using Google Translate to do it. So you got be vehement, and that they're not doing that in class. So.
How soon do you find that they're able to do the timed writes? Is it after the first story, or maybe a couple stories in, like you might scaffold it with something like this?
Yeah, I don't go right into the whole time write from memory until, give them a couple stories, first. I think I did the first one with them in first week of October. But it was a very short, it was like, the story was only like 9 sentences, so I was comfortable to do that. And then, this is another one today. Alejandra doesn't want to rest in the house. She wants to go to the mall. Okay, so it's her. Sometimes I just get tired. I just use the same people again and switch their name, because sometimes it takes a while to put this stuff together.
So you're covering all the material that you're required to cover in the book, but do you ever touch the book in class?
No, they just sit there,
Good.
or they're like a doorstop.
Assuming. Okay.
Right. This one student, he made a nice little like pyramid-looking thing and put the rail in. Like, hey, thanks, Dan. So let's see what this one is. I'm not gonna say it all in Spanish, but okay, I just want to see what it is. Okay. Today is Saturday, and so-and-so wants to go to the mall with her cousin, and so she arrives at 10 o'clock, and then and they. And then they. But first they go to the movie theater to go see a movie, and then. After the movie, they cross the street to go to Starbucks, and then, just little simple things. I've been getting lazy on the animation lately. It was like the Natalia thing where they were just there.
You just right-click on it to put animation in?
Yeah, I can show you. Yeah, And then she orders, let's backtrack to the food unit for a minute, pide un café y un sandwich de something, and then pide una galleta, ordered a cookie and a frappuccino, trademark. I'll say that, I don't want to get sued by Starbucks. I think as a joke, I put a TM next to next to frappuccino or something on that thing. So, and then after, and this one might could be that one. Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry, yeah, they're coming to the mall. All right, so, and then they go in there, and then, they have to go to the tienda de ropa porque ella quiere comprar pantalones nuevos. We didn't do a clothes unit because that's not until chapter 7 of the Realidades chapter, Spanish 2. But throw in pants for cognate word pantalones. And then they come back out, and then there's a problem. Someone stole the car. And then time writes for proficiency, goals 100 words in 5 minutes. I don't know really who knows who come up with that goal, but I've seen it a lot on websites. Topical or free write. I think they're talking about like a free write as far as 100 words as a goal for your students to be able to write in about 5 to 7 minutes at the end of year 1. I did a time write 2 days later after that, the one I showed you about just recalling. So I set the time, I'm like, okay, you have 7 minutes. I give a little more, a little extra time, because not everyone's on the same, have acquired the same. You can't, it's like people process things at different rates as human beings, so you got to give some leeway for those who, are not writing 100 and some odd words. They're writing about 60 or 70 or. So that was her free write. Whatever you want. So this is what she wrote. Just, hi, my name's Sia. I'm 14 years old. Said soy, but whatever. It's like, that takes a while to acquire the tango thing, even though we expect them to know it by the end of the chapter and be proficient in it. But you'll be, after years in language, level 3s are still, not using Saturn and Star, in the same way because there's a certain, process of order of acquisition, as they call it. In the school, I like math class more because it's very fun and with my friends. I don't like the science class. Okay, so she's picking school stuff. Tiene, she'd probably say tango. I have a sister that's 9 years old, but then she uses it there though, instead of, I want a dog, but my parents said no. I like to swim in the summer and we watch videos on YouTube and Netflix. One day I want to visit British Virgin Islands. I eat a lot of Cheetos. My favorite food is food from Taco Bell. I don't like to run in the summer because it's hot. Es calor. I want to. But if you take out the grammar elements, we're looking at proficiency, right? Proficiency doesn't mean accuracy.
Do you do anything special though for your low kids who might not be able to produce this yet? They might just have a bad memory.
I give them I give everybody 15 points in the grade book, regardless if they wrote 50 words or 100.
Right. Okay.
I'm not. The fact that they did it, they just get points for it.
Sure.
It shows me where it shows. All the pencil tests and all the quizzes and all the tests shows me nothing on how proficient they are. This shows me how proficient they are, right? And also taking them out in the hallway and asking them 3 or 4 questions off the cuff that I don't give them the questions ahead of time for an oral component because they can just memorize the answer. I don't know what he's saying when he says, ¿Qué te gusta comer? But I'm going to say galletas. I don't know if I know I'm going to say that, right? But if I'm out in the hall, they have no idea what I'm going to ask them. That I know that, I know where, how proficient, where their proficiency is, and doing this stuff. And I even tell them that. I'm like, these homework assignments I give and what you're going to do on these tests, that doesn't tell me anything what I know you can do in the language. It just tells me what you know in the language, or what you can memorize, or something like that. And they didn't know this was coming, We've done it before, but this was just, they didn't know. Like, hey, let's do a time write, everybody, and then, they've done this 2 or 3 times, 3 or 4 times before though. Here's another one, 253 words over everything you wanted. 13-year-old, 8th grader. And I'm not going to go through all that kind of stuff, but this is ways if you want to just circle your vocab and have a picture with it. Movie talks, Martina Beck's. There's just so much stuff that, it's hard to cram in an hour. Soy Yo was a video where I do the videos. Sometimes with verbs, I do structured input. Can I just leave the lights off?
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to verbs, I don't do the verb in the parentheses with the infinitive, right? Because I don't know. I just want to give them options. And a lot of times when it comes to the first time we start doing conjugations of verbs, this is what I do. I just basically just give yo, Alejandra, and tú, I, he, she, and you, and then I separate the subject so they hone in on this, and I bold it, and they just have to put little check marks and make a whole bunch of half slips. You know, I'm always doing this in the in the staff room. I'm just cutting half slips constantly, and then I'm not doing this anymore with them at this point with the ones, but with the twos, obviously I do the past tense endings, right? And then, they just take a minute to do that. They do the warm-up, which is something, a visual prompt on the board or a question, and at the same time as a half slip, so they're doing two different things for the first 3 minutes of class. Usually the question on the warm-up, maybe it's a question I'm circling around, so that might take 5 minutes in and of itself. And this is, I just quickly tell them, all right, this is what you should have, everybody, Joe, now, and so on and so forth. But, let's see. But yeah, what I'll do, obviously, instead of the verb and the infinitive, I'll just have two different conjugations, and they just pick which one, because that's just, I think, too.
Do you have to stay in the present tense, or are you able to go into other tenses?
You can go, you can go into any tenses, sure.
Well, I wasn't sure if your textbook.
Yeah, I try to throw a little bit of past tense in, but it's just like I just gotta make sure they know all the vocab and all the grammar for, so they can take the final exam. I've been trying, that's my next frontier, is to start getting past, I haven't done it yet, but that's my frontier, is to get into throwing in past tense stuff in level 1. Because why speak in present, for an entire school year? Patton says that we acquire language in bits and pieces. We take a little bit of the present, and then the past comes in, and if you've heard the show, he talks about that kind of stuff. It's slow, it's piecemeal, and things like that. Oh yeah, I'm almost at the end. So yeah, if you want, there's Michigan CI Language Teachers Group that I started quite a while ago. Got like 180 people on it now. They're not all from Michigan, but we still just approve. And let's see, the IF. This is 6,000 members by Karen Rowan from Colorado, who started it. There's Grant Boulanger and Pippins and Carol and Walter Hopkins and Crashen, and that's their picture or whatever that they use for the IFLT and TPRS CI teaching. I know they have a conference in the summer. A lot of people, go to it for, tons of resources. It can be overwhelming. You could be scrolling forever, and people put things up. That's the biggest one, that most language teachers will Christy's in the middle. I didn't notice that. What else? That. A lot of big names, the CI Universe, Crashen, Carol Gabb, Christy Placido, Tina Arganen, Mike Pito, Martina Bex, who does a lot of movie talk stuff, and Carrie Toth, Lane Ray, Terry White, she's here, right? Annabelle's here, Bryce is here, Grant's here. Tina Arganen's got her CI Liftoff YouTube website, and unfortunately, Tea with BVP is not happening anymore because he's now in Chowchilla, but he's got his new show coming up in August that he's going to be broadcasting out in Chowchilla.
Where's that?
California. Yeah, and those are all, if you go to Tea with BVP and SoundCloud, you can listen to all his episodes. They're all still going to be up there. He has another talk show in August that he's going to do. Classroom Tapas I have that on a slide, is a website that he's creating for teachers that has like cuentos short stories and stuff, but I think you kind of have to pay or something. Here's some things about BVP though. Language, the things I like that he says. Language is not subject matter like math and science. L1 and L2, language 1 and 2 are fundamentally the same. If you're going to teach communicatively, you better have a working definition of communication, which is the interpretation and negotiation of meaning couched in context. Yeah, what is on page 32 is not what winds up in your head. There is no such thing as grammar rules. That's not language. It's just language is too abstract and complex to teach and learn explicitly. People think that what they are getting are actual rules. They're not. Subjects and verbs must agree. Sounds like a rule, but it's not what's in our heads. It's amazing how like adjective acquiring of like the plural feminine or something doesn't come for years and years. And that's just kind of the thing too, how we push this kind of thing, right? It's just like, oh, like an infant, how many hours of acquisition do they have? For, they're able to get a handle like the past tense by the age of 5. But let's not look at years, right? Because, in school it's just 1 hour a day. I mean, we have to look at it as in hours, right? So why are we expecting them to get a handle on the past tense when it takes hours and hours up until the age of 5? But yet we're expecting them in just a year of Spanish too in order to do that. It's because the textbooks are telling us to. We don't acquire verb endings, we acquire whole words that have endings. I like that one. I'm so tired. And my gosh, look at the time flies when you're on Prozac. He says that a lot. There's his book, while we're on the topic. I think that is one of the best source books, I think, that's really written. He really writes it for, I'm promoting Bill, part of my presentation here. BVP, on language acquisition and classroom practice, and every chapter is a principle on contemporary language teaching. So he talks about all these things. It's not very scholarly and filled with a lot of jargon. He writes it for, it's like having a conversation with him when you read it. So it's not very complex with second language acquisition and jargon and stuff like that. And that is his website, Classroom Tapas. This I took off because he was the keynote last year here, so I took a picture of his screen. I like this, like CI is not a method. Methods emphasize input to greater or lesser degrees as part of what happens in and out of class. But I like this, but input, CI, in and of itself is not a method, it's a construct within acquisition. Please don't tell people I teach CI or I use the CI approach. Instead say my approach and methods put CI in interaction with CI at the center of classroom and homework activities. And there was something else that he said that, and here's one thing which I wrote that I was thinking about. Sorry, it kind of feels like I'm kind of all over the place a little bit today, but I should have passed all these timelines out to you. And in fact, I could, you know what? I already told them they're not giving you crap. So, feel free to take these, take them with you. Because I told them they're not. They already have the grade in the grade book, so we're good. Trust me. So you're allowed to. I can give you these as a sample if you want. But the thing is, with the unfortunate thing is, if you're bound to the textbook and things, he talks about this where, see, with me, I'm using CI in my classroom for 14 years, but I'm always using it. I'm always using it to teach the old syllabus, the traditional syllabus, right? And it's like that's not really the best way to do CI in your classroom, is to use it as a tool to teach old things, But I kind of figure, well, teaching with CI is better than not teaching with CI. And here's that one section in this chapter where he talks about that. And, yeah. And then, so I guess, I don't know, yeah, a lot of times you've got that, and also you might know this if, trying to get your department on board too, that has some obstacles as well, right? As far as trying to get everybody on the same page, Personally with me, like my ones is really easy. My main thing is always the level 2s. I always been getting pushback because they come from 6 different Spanish teachers. Because my district's huge, and they've never done any of this stuff, and it's kind of like trying to do my best to make up for I consider kind of like lost time, and we've got obstacles, but you just got to keep on going and doing what you believe is correct, and like we're working for proficiency and acquisition, and and then start trying to shift things. I don't know. All right. Well, thank you very much.